Introduce yourself. Let me.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Mike. I got this here, the Fiend Cast Live. We got the comic raider James. Hey, what's up?
Yes, sir. I'm here representing the West chapter, everybody. We're going to have a nice little show. And we have a special introduction of another member here today.
Hey, guys. It's Andy. On IG, I'm Serial Killer Comics, representing Canada. So you might see my face around a little bit more than just Chad. Even though we do have good-looking people up here.
Bunch of good-looking guys here tonight. So let's see. We haven't been on in a little while, so we got a lot to cover. So we're just going to jump right into it. So first things first, we're going to talk about some TV shows. There's been a lot coming out, both on the Netflix platform. You got Sci-Fi going. The DC streaming service continues to pop off. So we're going to start with a newer one. We're going to talk about Deadly Class a little bit since a couple of these guys have seen it. So Andy, go ahead and tell us what you think about Deadly Class so far.
Well, one of my chapter mates turned me on to it. The collector guy, Mike from Alberta. He's a big fan of the comics and was pushing the trailer on us and everything like that when it originally came out. So definitely checked it out and just kind of really fell in love with the first episode. One of the biggest reasons was, as silly as it is to say, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. So it felt it was like that vibe, but obviously with a crazy twist, being that all the kids that go to this school are psychopaths and basically murderers. So it's kind of figuring out a way how to harness that talent. So far, great start to the show. I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you guys seen it yet?
Yeah. I could talk about Deadly Class at length. I've been reading the comics since it's come out. Rick Remender is one of my favorite writers. Everything he puts out his indie stuff is dope. So they did a before it actually aired on Sci-Fi Network. They had it posted on their website for a while, the pilot, and I think I watched it like
3 weeks ago.
I watched it like right. So I think I watched it like 2 or 3 times in a row.
Yeah, me too.
And the pilot just hooked me. It's super true to the story. Like it's just exactly what I would expect from Rick Remender. It's that super punk, hardcore, teen, angsty kind of story. And it's high school, but there's just a bunch of ninjas and assassins and murderers and gangsters and it's and vatos and everything else. It's pretty dope. So for anybody who doesn't know, it follows Marcus, who is like a Mexican American kid who's from an orphanage and living on the streets, and he gets picked up by these kids, and it's called King's Dominion, and it's just it's a high school for assassins, and it is awesome. It's on every Wednesday night on Sci-Fi, and it's dope.
And
James,
just like the one thing I wanted to bring up, it's cool how it takes that whole idea of different cliques in a high school. Yeah, and instead of it being like the jocks, the geeks, the cheerleaders, things like that, you have like the Yakuza, the cartel, you have the white supremacist group, and then you have just kind of like the punks and kind of like stoner killer group. So
yeah, they call me the Rats.
That's it. Yeah.
That was my clique back in the day, hanging out on the corner. The punk kids smoke too much pot.
There you go. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm pretty bad at watching all these shows. There's a few. I'm more into the Netflix ones. But now that I've finished pretty much most of those, I'll be looking for some stuff to go over. And I know that this one's something that a lot of people have recommended. Actually, the series has been recommended to me before the show even came out, just as a book. So that's probably one that I will definitely be putting on my list to check out. And so, Mike, in your opinion, so I mean, this follows the material, the source material, pretty darn well.
Yeah. No, it's spot on. I mean, it's a little, as everything, it's a little accelerated. There's they probably covered like an entire trade worth of material in like the first 2 episodes or whatever, but Um, it's just the characters are true to the source material, and it's just everything. I mean, down to like the soundtrack that's in it, and just like the casting is spot on. The screenplay is dope. I mean, like you could tell Remender did not let this go. He sat there and he picked out every single shoelace and song and word that they use. So it's good. It's dope.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you mentioned is, like you said, the soundtrack. I think like people going into this, you don't realize it, and they do a good job of not pushing it on you too much, because this whole 80s thing is kind of oversaturated in a lot of like media lately with like Ready Player One and Stranger Things and stuff like that. But you don't notice it at all. You get that 80s vibe. But it's more of an 80s Watchmen vibe instead of like an 80s, Stranger Thing, like always with synth music or anything like that. So it's really cool to, be in that 80s world, but it's not so in your face where it kind of becomes old, so to speak.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, if you guys read Rick Remender stuff, he's huge into punk rock. He's huge into 80s punk rock specifically. I mean, like Fear Agent, each trade was named after an old punk rock song. And then like a lot of his writing is heavily tied into that. And I mean, the whole without giving too much away, I mean, the whole point of this is, this is like Reagan youth brought up in the Reagan era. And outside of like those small subtle things they talk about, like having Reagan there and hearing like an old like punk rock song or in the background, it feels natural, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think anybody can just start watching this. You could watch episode 1 and never had read the comic book, and you'll love it. It's really a great show. I'm super stoked to see where it goes for the first season.
Is it an ongoing series?
Yep.
Yeah, still going. I think this Wednesday 37 came out.
37 came out. Yeah. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, there's it's a really good series. It hit its monthly mark for a while there, and I think then, Rick Remender writes like 10 indie books right now, and now he's doing TV shows and stuff. So it took a little bit of a hiatus for a little while, and now it's back, and I think it's back to monthly again. So, but anybody who reads any of his stuff, Low, Black Science, Seven to Eternity, if you like Rick Remender and his style, you'll definitely love this show.
And right now would be a good time, for those of you who just like want to collect books and are speculating on books. Issue 1, somewhat still affordable, but it is going up in price week by week. It's always like I'm saying, it goes up like $20-$30. It seems like every week. So get it now.
Okay.
Or pick up the trades on InStockTrade.com.
Yes, you do. So another one that's coming out is we've got going to the DC side. So we've got Young Justice and we have Titans. Now, Young Justice, Andy, I believe you're watching this one for sure, correct?
Yep. Caught up. I haven't watched this Friday's episode, but I've watched like 10 episodes so far, and I was a big fan of the comics Young Justice, and I've been a big fan of this series so far too. It's different with the outsiders coming in. So it's an interesting new batch of characters coming into like the series. But I think if you guys like the first 2 series or seasons of Young Justice, you guys are gonna love this one too.
Is it a weekly? Is it come out weekly or the whole season's out?
No, 3 episodes every Friday.
Oh wow.
Okay. 3 episodes drop every Friday on. Well, you guys got the DC streaming service down in the States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't get that up here. So I'm thinking that at least for Canada, at least in other places, they're probably going to just drop the whole season once it's finished on Netflix. But we've been getting it in by using other means up here. So definitely have been keeping it up with the show that way. But if you guys have the streaming service, definitely check it out. 3 episodes every Friday.
Okay. Okay. Mike, you watching it?
I watched all the first 2 seasons, and then I watched when it came out. What I ended up doing, I was actually I was sick like a week or two ago when it came out, so I started to watch it. I watched like the first episode and totally forgot everything that happened. So I went back and watched like the tail end of the second season again. Invasion, which is I forgot how dope the second season even was.
Yeah.
And then I watched like the first 2 episodes again, and I mean it was awesome. It was definitely going in the right direction, but I haven't watched everything that's out. I love the series all around already. I never really was. I never read too much Young Justice in general. I read tons of Teen Titans, older stuff mostly. But I know everybody's talking about the new Bendis book that just came out, the Young Justice, and how good it is. So I plan on picking that up eventually.
You know, I picked that up too. Yeah, no, it is good, and it's just fun that they're bringing back characters that we haven't seen in a while. Not only in the comic, but in the TV show too. With
right.
You know, more Superboy. I'm a big Tim Drake fan, so Tim Drake's back in the DC universe and Young Justice. But in the show itself, introducing characters that I honestly forgot they even exist, like Forger, Halo, Geoforce, all these characters that you've briefly heard about them or never heard about them at all. So I know some people in my chapter at least have been hunting down those first appearances of those characters because they're big fans of Young Justice, and those books are still super affordable. But if the show takes off, who knows? But yeah, I recommend it. Definitely, if you guys like the first 2 seasons, it just gets better.
Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, was this a show that was doing pretty well and still got canceled anyways?
Do you know why it got canceled?
No.
The toys weren't selling.
So sounds about right.
Yeah. So DC had released the toys for Young Justice, but even though the show was on, I think it was on Teletoon or the Cartoon Network, whichever one of those it was on, and they just weren't selling enough toys. People who were like us were, purchasing some of the Batman ones, some of the Robin ones or Nightwing ones, but as a whole, the toys weren't selling, and they decided to can the show just because of that.
Wow. Okay.
So it goes to show you that some of these companies do use shows like that as a commercial for these figures.
Right.
And I'm hoping that this show doesn't get canceled, but it's awesome that it came back because of the support of people like us, just the fans, hitting them up on Twitter, hashtagging them and things, and saying we want them to bring the show back. And the biggest push to get the show back was when Netflix bought the licensing rights to season 1 and 2, and the numbers of viewers on those 2 seasons on Netflix was like way higher than they ever thought it would be. And that was one of the reasons why the show is back. So good job to everyone who was watching that on Netflix.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly the other part of it too is obviously the DC streaming network. I know that I read that their subscribers weren't as high as they wanted to, and that there might be putting some of the live action shows on standby until they get some more subs. But I mean, anybody who likes DC needs to go out and subscribe to this thing. It's definitely affordable. I mean, it's worth it. You got Titans that was out. You have Young Justice now. You got Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, all these other things lined up coming down the line. And people are out there buying it. But that toy thing, that blows my mind. That's crazy. But it definitely makes sense. I think Mad Collector just said in the chat that he goes, DC shooting themselves in the foot again. Big surprise. So I got to agree with that.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. So now on to the other show that we've referenced already is Titans, which my understanding is pretty much wrapped up season number 1, and it's been out for a little while now. So now what we're going to do is, I still haven't seen it, but I'm going to let these two handle basically a review, and this will contain some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, then maybe, I don't know, tune out for just a few minutes here. But I want these guys to kind of, if we haven't sold you on it already, which I know we've pretty much talked about this every show we've had, then maybe these two giving you guys the full rundown will sell you guys on getting this thing. So whichever one of you wants to start off.
You go ahead, brother.
Well, I think the first thing I got to say about it is if by any means whatsoever you judge this show based off of that trailer they released, don't, because that trailer is nowhere near what this show is really like and what it's about. I thought the trailer was horrible. I was like so excited for this show to come out, and then I saw that trailer and I'm like, DC did it again. They just ruined everything. I paid all this money for this subscription, and I'm already over it. But then I watched it, and let me tell you, it's a dope series. So I think some of the highlights for me certainly is that, first of all, the casting is great. Once you kind of get into it and start to learn the characters, I think that you really kind of find Dick Grayson and the guy who plays him, and the choice for Raven and Beast Boy and everyone and Starfire are spot on. Their kind of attitudes, and it's really a good casting choice for everyone. And then, some of the things, the critiques on there, which aren't really bad, but like I think there was probably more screen time for Hawk and Dove than there were for like some of the main characters in the series, like Beast Boy and some of the other people, which again, it wasn't bad. Like the Hawk and Dove episodes I thought were awesome. Like I went back and I was like, oh, I'm going to read some Hawk and Dove because I've never really read that much. I've only read them in like when they were in other books, and I thought that was awesome. I thought the Doom Patrol episode was awesome and has me super stoked on the Doom Patrol coming out. And then, I mean, there's the last episode, which I mean, you can't really talk much about without just blatant spoilers. But my overall feeling before we get into that, and I'll let Andy take a shot too. My overall was just like, it's got me stoked for what's going to come, and like the progression of seeing kind of Dick Grayson give up the Robin suit and step away from Batman, and you see him slowly realizing that he doesn't want to be Robin anymore, but he still needs to be somebody, and that who that somebody is Nightwing, obviously. And I love Nightwing, so I'm stoked for the next season. I thought the buildup was great. The action was good. All the fight scenes were dope. I thought the special effects weren't over the top. The CGI wasn't crazy. I think it was just a good show. Yeah, I loved it. So what do you think, Andy?
I'll start off by something you just touched on. I personally thought choreography and fight scenes, I may get some flack for this, but I thought it was like probably better than even some of the Marvel series. I'd say I would argue better than Daredevil in a lot of cases. So I was a big fan of them making it look raw and gritty as it was and as violent as it was. One of the things you did mention that was a big highlight for a lot of people. I know we have a couple people even in our club that are huge Jason Todd fans, and their representation of Robin Jason Todd was pretty spot on to I think what we all pictured him in the comic books, and as bratty and cocky, and the reason why people decided to kill him off in the comics. So I thought he was awesome. I'm hoping and interested in seeing if they'll bring that character back, and I'm sure everyone's wondering if they'll ever get to a Red Hood. So we'll see how the show does. I'm thinking it did well enough. We do know there's a second season coming. We'll talk about that later too. But yeah, I'm a huge Batman fan, and this was a show that made it obvious that the Bat family can work in live action. Like, it's not a silly concept to think of a character like Robin and a character like, if Batgirl was to pop up, it wouldn't be so strange or anything like that. I thought probably the weakest thing in the show, just so we're not just here kissing the show's ass, was just like, I think the villains. Nuclear Family was kind of cool. but they came and went, and we still don't know enough about the organization that was brought up in the show. And obviously it ended with Raven's dad coming into this world. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Yeah, I geeked out just as much as everyone else when they show those little clips of the Batcave or the Batmobile and all those little things where Batman was very much a part of this world, but I don't think they used him too much to sell the characters. I think the characters stood out by themselves. And I do remember, like you said, things that people went into the show not really interested in was Starfire got a lot of hate before the show started. And I think throughout the series, she became one of my favorite characters. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I get it. I get the issues that the people were having with the costumes and the hair. But I've already seen photos of what she looks like in season 2. So I think a lot of people are going to be happy with the new look. So we'll see what happens. But all in all, it was an amazing series. And that cliffhanger at the end credits of the last episode has definitely got me interested in where they're going with it.
Yeah, so a couple of people in the chat brought up also Donna Troy, Wonder Girl, and she was, dude, again, that goes back to what I said about the casting. Like, she was spot on, first of all, and it was just cool to see, like, it was cool to see everybody on their own terms. You know, she wasn't. It's awesome to see all the sidekicks or whatever kind of. You know, they're living their own lives. They got their own thing going on, and this team is slowly forming, and everybody's still a little bit reluctant. And yeah, it's cool. Donna Troy was definitely one of my favorite characters of the series, and I think, like you said, I like the fact that it's just blatantly and unapologetically violent and brutal. I mean, there's a scene they were talking about where, I mean, Robin's rubbing people's face against glass and he's stabbing people in the dick with scissors and stuff. Like, it's just brutal. I mean, like, absolutely brutal.
Sure. Speaking at that scene, you even saw, like, I remember Hawk and Dove, like, after they, like, Robin came and saved them, they looked at him and that, you know, how violent that character got, and were like, they were taken back from you know, the things that he was willing to do, like throwing like a Robin, like the Robin R at someone's eyeball or something like that. So
yeah, right, absolutely.
So it was awesome. And you're right, like, Donna was an amazing character too. And I think another aspect of the show that I really loved was just the relationships that you saw that Dick Grayson had with people. It just kind of made you want to know more about his past. So season 1 was clearly about Dick Grayson, right? I mean, there was a couple other stories about Raven and here and this and that, and you got to know about Gar a little bit, Beast Boy. But I think they really wanted to establish Dick Grayson's story and then just kind of branch it off. I think each season we're going to get a little bit more about all the other characters. So if Dick Grayson wasn't your favorite character, I think there's more to come for the other characters.
Absolutely.
Cool. So all in all, I mean, I'm guessing you guys recommend it. So.
Oh, for everyone, yeah.
So next up is we're going to talk about Netflix here, and another one that just dropped recently, which is Punisher Season 2. So my first question, real quick before I go off on my rant, is have you guys seen it and how many episodes in?
I got 2 episodes left.
Okay. Yeah, same. 2 episodes, okay. 2 or 3 left, yeah.
So I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, although, again, in my opinion, not really anything that there is to spoil, which is kind of cool. There's not some big news that really happens. So I finished it. I just finished it a couple hours ago, and I gotta say it was, I mean, just one of my favorites, for sure. The violence, the over-the-top violence, and the fact that just episode 1 just starts off right, you know, and you know after first episode that this series is going in a good direction, and it pretty much stays that way throughout the whole season. and there's a lot of story that goes on too, but they balanced it very well in my opinion. As far as you're gonna get tons and tons of fight scenes, tons and tons of shooting scenes, which is exactly what we all wanted. Um, but at the same time, you also have a story going on somewhat. A lot of people have talked about Jigsaw and the face and the fact that it should have been done better. He should have had a lot more scars. I mean, dude got his face just mashed through glass, like you guys talked about in Titans. But just and so, I mean, yes, I do agree. It could have been a lot worse, but I think at the same time, I mean, if you watch that season and that's like one of your real major issues, then it was a damn good season. If we're talking about how many scars a guy had, So, and I thought the actor does a great job throughout the whole. I mean, how he plays that psychotic character, Torn. Like I felt like I could feel his frustration throughout the whole thing, and then also at the same time, you also have the girl that you see in the trailer, and we won't get into like what her purpose is, but she was a very frustrating character to watch. Oh my god! One of those characters where you're like, I just want to choke this bitch.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! But all in all, man, I thought it's just an awesome season. Absolutely awesome. It's gonna suck that it's gonna get canceled. I'm just gonna say it's gonna get canceled because it's gonna get canceled. But I think it was really, really good. So we got a lot to talk about on this one, but I'm gonna let one of you guys handle it first. So we'll go. Andy, go ahead and let me know what you've thought so far.
I agree 100% on everything you pretty much said. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if you guys realize who the actor who played Jigsaw is. I don't know if you're like me and when you were a kid, you watched movies like Stardust or Chronicles of Narnia or anything like that. But he was, Prince Caspian in Chronicles of Narnia. He was like one of the main characters in Stardust. So it's crazy to see how far he's come since then. I think one line or one scene in the whole show really got me. And it's not really a spoiler because it has nothing to do with plot. There's a scene when Punisher's sitting there and he's talking to people and he's saying, I'm not like you guys. I'm different. And basically he makes you believe that his superpower is that he can kill and not be killed. That's just what he does, which is what the Punisher does. But that scene just made me buy into this character could basically be an Avenger type of thing. Just his ability to kill and just how tough he is. And like you said, violent as hell, but just the choreography and the action and stuff like that's amazing. I don't know why I didn't, but I had, I guess I stopped at episode 8 from season 1. And then when season 2 dropped, I just realized that I needed to finish that. So I got to go right from that into this.
Nice.
And I thought it flowed perfectly. As far as the transition from season 1 to season 2 was perfect. Like you, I was interested in how, if you guys remember the first episode, just how the Punisher was trying to, kind of trying to enjoy life a little bit, flirting with a girl, being like a nice guy. And I was kept waiting for that turn. I'm like, this is weird. This is uncomfortable. When are we going to see the Frank Castle that I just finished watching at the end of season 1, who decapitated a guy and threw him in the middle of a group of other guys with a bomb attached to it. And you see that he was trying to go be clean, but he just was waiting for someone to pull him back in. And this season just kind of took that, and you're going different places. I like Jigsaw too. Like that the one character that I haven't really really attached myself to too much was the person that's helping him with the therapy and everything like that. But I see her purpose on the show as well.
She's hot. That's her purpose.
Yeah. And
she was hot.
Those the detective or the Homeland Security woman from season 1 and season 2. I always forget her name. Yeah. But no, it's I can't wait to see how it finishes. But at the same time, I'm kind of a little sad that like that last episode is going to be the last episode. So I think that's why I've kind of been prolonging it a little bit.
I hear you. I hear you. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I fucking love it. It's awesome. For all the same reasons. Everything about the violence and the hot chicks. No, but seriously, like, it is. I mean, Mad Collector was saying it's the best. It's the best Frank Castle. It's the best Punisher you've ever seen. I agree 100%.
I agree.
I would also, I'd go as far as like, I think like to this point, like everybody talks about all these Marvel, everybody in Marvel and how they just do such great casting, and like, how Robert Downey Jr. was spot on and Chris Hemsworth was spot on, whatever. I think he is absolutely one of the best castings that's ever been done, ever, period. Yeah. For this role, I mean, everything from like his voice and his body language and just the way he looked, like just him as a person. Absolutely. I mean, again, I could go through a million things. I think without spoiler free, one of my favorite scenes or episodes so far was the whole thing in the police station, and I'll leave it at that. Those who know. Those who don't, watch it. You'll find out. It did a really good job of further pulling out that balance between Frank Castle the man and the Punisher, and kind of you see his humanity and you see him wanting to be good, like Andy said. He's trying to be good, he's trying to step away, he's trying not to kill, but like they were saying in the chat, it's like, what's his superpower? He just kills people, and it's not, there is remorse in him. He's absolutely has remorse, but it doesn't stop him, and then so I thought that was absolutely awesome. And then I still don't know who this Jigsaw was good. I love Jigsaw. I thought the actor was great. I think if you're talking about scars, it's nitpicky, and like that just means it's a good show. If you got to find something that's wrong with it, but the other dude, the priest or whatever,
Pilgrim.
Like dude, the Pilgrim, yeah, dude, he was just. I read a good amount of Punisher. I've never read that character. I don't know if he's from the comics. It's not anybody. It's not anybody I've ever read, but that whole everything he was in, like whether it was his backstory or him doing what he does in the show, is just awesome. And then I agree about the doctor, the psychiatrist, man. I just wanted to slap her every time she was on this. She served her purpose, man. Like, she got you angry. Like, you like saw that Russo was trying to work through all this and try and become a better person as well. And like, she's the reason he turned into Jigsaw. Yeah, I wanted to slap her, but overall, I think season 2, both seasons together is the best Marvel TV show that came out. I think it's my favorite season is certainly season 2 over both of them. Yeah, I'm stoked to finish the last 2 episodes.
So again, I'll keep it spoiler free, but Pilgrim gets even better, if that's even a thing. But he gets better throughout the whole end of it. So all in all, by the time you're done, I mean, you guys still have a couple more to go, and I'll just say that there's a lot of shit that happens in just the last 2. And so the fact that it's already, I mean, I felt the same way. It's definitely my favorite season, probably of anything, because it was just that good. And I gotta say, I mean, for the acting and all these characters that are quote unquote unknown, besides Punisher, really, they do such a damn good job. They really do in everything. I mean, you get the emotions because you're going to get angry at characters. You're going to sit there and understand the frustration in characters. You're going to sit there and watch it and be like, man, what would I do, or how would I handle that? And the whole thing just makes you think and puts you in their perspective and their mindsets of how they have to handle and cope by everything. I mean, everybody from season 1, you know, that carries on to season 2 and how they have to deal with everything that happened in season 1. It just great fucking show. Great show. Way better, in my opinion, than Daredevil season 3, which I also just finished. And both of you guys said you finished that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So unless you guys have anything else to add on Punisher, I do want to talk about Daredevil a little bit.
No, I'm good. Let's go.
No, good.
Okay. So Daredevil season 3. Now this one is going to be spoilers. It's been out for quite a while. So I just finished that up as well. In my opinion, and I say this as a Daredevil fan, I didn't love it. I will say that I did like it. I did not love it. It definitely, I think that's kind of why I jumped on Punisher so quickly, because normally I kind of let these sit because I don't want, I mean, Punisher just came out and I'm already done, and now I'm like, fuck. So I waited on Daredevil, and I waited and I waited, and I was so hyped on everything that, the whole story, the whole premise and everything, having read most of it. But then I watched it, and it just left me, I wanted more, is basically what it left me with, it, and not necessarily in a good way. The acting was still good, I'll give it that. The whole premise of the Born Again, which I've read, so I say this as someone who has read it, the whole premise of him being a beaten down, torn down Matt Murdock, having to figure out who's he going to be moving forward and what's he going to do, to me, dragged on way too long. Wasn't done extremely well, because it got boring. I mean, plain and simple, to me, I got bored. And the whole Karen thing, she was kind of boring. I mean, I get the whole background of needed of her and a whole fucking episode dedicated to her.
Yeah, I never liked Karen though. Oh.
So I mean, that was kind of like, that made it worse. And then finally, towards the end, I got what I wanted. He came back as Matt Murdock, and he came back as the lawyer. And for me, because I know that, you know, some out there may say, well, you know, it's going somewhat off of source material, and it's setting up for this and it's setting up for that. But I don't mind a good story when it's done right. And him as Matt Murdock in season 1 and season 2 was great. I love the whole lawyer shit. Some of my favorite Daredevil stories deal more with him not as Daredevil than as Daredevil. But they just didn't do it really well, in my opinion. Kingpin was awesome. Bullseye was good. We just didn't get a costume out of him. And the end reveal of him was lame as fuck. But I liked him as a character. I liked how far of a reach Kingpin was shown to have. How just the dude runs shit, period. And it was good there. The fight scenes, they were good. I missed that. Unless I'm wrong, we didn't get that big scene like we did in 1 and 2, in seasons 1 and season 2. I mean, I'm guessing what was it? They were in prison, right? That prison scene is supposed to be that. It wasn't for me. So I don't want to take too much. I'm gonna leave you guys with hopefully something. But go ahead and give your guys' thoughts on it before we go any further.
Go ahead, Indy.
Like, it's kind of funny. Like, the more you talk about it, the more I'm trying to remember stuff about season 3, and I keep remembering stuff about season 1 and 2. Like, stuff from those 2 seasons stand out for me more than season 3. But you're right. I'll be honest. I skipped that episode that was all about Karen. As soon as I knew it was one of those backstory episodes, which, like you, she isn't the most interesting character to me, I just went right to the next one. And I'm sure I missed a lot of backstory. I got the idea of certain things that she did. But it was nice to see where Bullseye symbol got its origins from a baseball cap when he was little. So that's nice. But as far as the season goes, I enjoyed it, but you're right. Some of the best things in the comics, and even in the first 2 seasons, was when you got to see Daredevil, Matt Murdock, the lawyer, the guy who accepts chickens and food from people in Hell's Kitchen to be like their lawyer, and even the types of cases that kept being brought up were interesting, of what he was doing as a lawyer to get these people off. And it would have been interesting if some of the show was more of a procedural like that, and having some of those elements put in throughout every season. But I guess for the last season, they just decided not to go there. And I feel like you, that it was missing something. Yeah. I don't know how do you feel about it, man?
I certainly think that it is probably, in my opinion, the best of the 3 seasons. I really liked it. I thought, like I said, it goes without saying that anytime Wilson Fisk is on the camera is just it's awesome. It's amazing. I keep hitting this, but the casting, it's just spot on, dude. It's absolutely spot on. I think the biggest things, I liked Bullseye. I thought he was really good. I wanted more from Bullseye, and I know the Mad Collector keeps saying that, it's like everything's built up and the next season was supposed to be all about Bullseye and all this stuff, and that's probably true, and I'm sure I agree with that, but I don't know, like I wanted Bullseye to become Bullseye like midway through the season, and I wanted it like him to be like real Bullseye, like badass. Now that you guys are saying all these little things, I definitely do notice it, and I haven't watched season 1 since it came out, and I know that's pretty primarily everybody's favorite season, but I still loved it. I thought it was great. I'm not so much the Daredevil fan, so I read Born Again back in the day, and I read the Frank Miller stuff, the other stuff, Man Without Fear back in the day. I haven't read it in forever, but I liked it. I mean, as far as the Marvel series go, like I said, I mean, The Punisher is definitely number 1. I think this season 3 is definitely the next step. Is the next one on my list. But yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was fun. I thought the action was good. I agree. There was never really that one big fight that kind of really, that came out like in the other seasons. But overall, I liked it a lot, and I guess I'm indifferent about the rest of it because Daredevil's not a huge. He's not just a huge character to me. Where something like seeing the Titans or seeing like the Punisher come to fruition was much more enjoyable for me. So I loved it. It was my favorite out of the season, out of all 3 seasons, and it was definitely better than and most of the other stuff that's been coming out. So yeah,
that's true. You can't hate it for. I mean, like when you're getting stuff like I wasn't the biggest fan of season 2 of Jessica Jones or Iron Fist, and Luke Cage was. Some episodes are better than others. So yeah, you're right. It's
none of Iron Fist was good. None of it at all.
No. So let me ask this real quick. So you admitted, Mike, that you've read Born Again and you haven't really read too much of it. And then Andy, it sounds like you've read quite a bit. So maybe if I know for me for sure, I probably way overhyped myself going in.
Yeah.
How everything that I had read. I mean, we talked about it multiple times on the show before it came out, and I remember going off and telling everybody a whole backstory of Born Again and everything like that. And I think maybe I'm guilty of that. Maybe I did overhype it for myself a bit. I do want to respond to quite a bit here on the chat. Like you touched on, Mike, Matt Collector saying that they were setting up for another season and everything, and I do get that to an extent. I feel like you can't put too much into, like, if you're making something, you do want to save some stuff for later, but at the same time, you can't leave it all for later. Bullseye should have been kind of brought in a little earlier, at least as Bullseye. And I know we got him in the Daredevil suit, and he was, being Bullseye, and he was throwing shit I mean, the whole scene in the newspaper office, whatever the fuck it's called. I mean, that was dope. I mean, he basically had a playground to himself. I mean, of every little thing that he could use, fucking staple guns, just everything. And that part was great. I know. Let's see. George Harris says, and so did Matt, that the prison's escape scene, and it was the whole one cut single shot. I know that, but it was not as good as season 1 and 2. I mean, I might have to watch it again, maybe. But I know that when it ended, I was like, was that supposed to be that? That was my exact thought. Was, don't tell me that was supposed to be that scene, because I know the one from season 1 and season 2 vividly, and I'll go on YouTube from time to time and watch them again, and especially the Punisher in prison one. I mean, like I've watched that. I can't even tell you how many times. I have no interest to watch that one again. Like it was cool. I get it. It was the whole single shot thing. I know that, but it didn't do it for me like the other ones did, for sure. But that's just me. And also Kingpin. So we've talked about him quite a bit here, but I mean, seriously, what he did in this season was just awesome. That is what I will say for sure. I mean, they talk about it quite a bit. Oh, he's always a step ahead. He's always ahead of you. He's always ahead of you. There comes a point where, like, what was it? When they finally got him to trial, or when they got the agent, I can't remember his name, but when they got the agent to finally speak out on him, and I was like, oh shit, they got him. And he was still a step ahead on that one, which you're like, how did he get that, even see that? Like, the guy seriously was so far ahead of them on every fucking plan that they had. It was just insane. His reach into every organization to be a step ahead, and how he got all the feds to be on him. And the hotel, I mean, the hotel that he got, the fact that he had bought that shit ahead of time, I mean, just everything was like, holy shit, dude. This guy had it all. He had all of this planned from the get-go, and it was awesome to see all of it come together like that, for sure. So I love that. That, I will say, they did incredible job at. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it was all right. I also will say, what he did to Bullseye at the end to get Bullseye to go into that surgery, fucking smashing him up against the wall like that. Oh my god, that was good. That was really good.
It was like watching fucking Bane.
Yes. Oh my god, that's brutal. Fucking brutal. So that was handled very well, I will say. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was good. I mean, the whole, the acting again. I mean, we could talk about the acting on that one. The Bullseye, same thing. The fact of how fucking messed up in the head he was, and going back and forth and getting again frustrated and pissed off, and having to try to control it. I mean, the acting's on point.
Even how creepy he was with that girl.
Yes.
Like that was an element of it where I'm like, okay, like, no, that's creepy. Like, and I like that about him.
Yes, and when he got caught on the date, and
yeah,
I think it started with like how many years, and she was like, well, how would you know that? And he was like, oh, I mean, he was, yeah, that was good for sure. Let's see, we got in the chat, Matt is still going off about this, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I mean, Hulk Nuts brought up a good question. He's talking about why this stuff was actually canceled. As far as I know, from what I understand is, I think that Disney, they're starting their own platform. And that they clearly want to bring back as many rights as they can, but I don't really know if it's their own streaming platform that's the reason they're doing this. I think that platform is going to be more like all ages based, and they're not going to have as much of this kind of stuff on there. But I think what happened was Netflix was willing to renew, and Disney just put like this ridiculous price tag on it, kind of to force them out so that they didn't have to go through any types of battles or anything like that. And from what I understand, Netflix was pretty much just like, well, we've got everything with buying they just bought all of Mark Miller's stuff, like and all that's going to production. So like Reborn was just announced with Sandra Bullock, and they've got all their own stuff that's coming out that is doing really well. And I think they just pretty much said, screw you, we don't need you. Like, we're not paying that kind of money. That was my understanding. I don't know if anybody else has any insight onto that, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think you're right about that. I think the other interesting thing is that I believe the contract now is Marvel can't do anything with these characters for 2 years after like the last show ends on each season or series. They have to wait 2 years before they can do anything with them. So it's not the biggest timeline. Like, we'll probably see these characters pop up again. And you're right, that it probably wouldn't be on the Disney streaming service, because that, I think it's called Disney Plus or something. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, Disney Plus.
But they now do have a controlling share of Hulu. So there's a good chance that, like, I think they own 60% of Hulu. So anything that's rated R or anything that they don't want the Disney name attached to it, they'll probably dump on there. So there's a good chance you'll probably see a lot of like the Marvel stuff that would be a little too scary or violent or something like that for kids would end up on the Hulu platform. So that's an option. So
Disney owns the world, as we know.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But no, that definitely does make sense. And I know I've said this before, but yeah, I think it really just comes down to money and Netflix having to decide, that we don't need them. And not only that, but I mean, think of how much money that now frees up for them and how many more stuff they can continue to produce on their own. I mean, what's that new one, Portal or some shit that just came out the other day on Netflix, that action movie?
Like Polar,
there you go.
Yeah.
So there's that one. I mean, Bird Box, and I think I said this on the last show, is, watch Bird Box and look at how many like famous, pretty decent name people are on there. And this is going to free up money for Netflix to do all that, to pay these people to come on and make even better content. And so I think on Netflix's end, I don't think they're really tripping about losing it. I think that they'll just continue to now make their own stuff now. But it sucks for us. I would love to see it definitely end up on Hulu, because I think we all want more of these seasons. And I know that for sure, if Daredevil season 4 ends up there, I'm gonna watch it, because Matt Collector said that they've got all shit planned for that season. So that's what I'm gonna be on the lookout for.
It'll be interesting in seeing the numbers too, if because I guess they assumed that the numbers were going to drop like so much for Punisher season 2, because people knew that there was not going to be a season 3. So they thought a lot of people would just say, fuck it, I'm not going to watch season 2, because what's the point of me getting emotionally attached to a show and knowing it's going to be canceled? So I'm wondering what those numbers are going to look like. I'm sure they'll come out sooner than later. But I don't think Jessica Jones season 3 is going to have any. I think that's the one that's going to be for sure, make Netflix feel like they made the right decision.
Yeah. No, I agree there. And I also think I saw something about like even the actors can't play those characters again, because there was a lot of speculation on, well, are these characters going to end up in the MCU, and are they going to do this and that? And I want to say it was Greg Palmetto Punisher that showed us some article or something. I don't remember. But anyways, that I guess these actors can't they can't play. So like Charlie Cox couldn't go and play Daredevil, at least for a certain time frame. Now he can't just all of a sudden next year, boom, be in the MCU. So that's definitely yeah, it would be. So we'll see what happens. But I think for all of us, we just have to accept our loss and move on and find some other stuff.
Watch
Titans, exactly. I know that's what I'm gonna do. I finished all my Netflix stuff, so now I got to watch something else. So
yeah, they class and Titans.
I will. So that's pretty much everything on the show. So now let's go over movies. So the Shazam trailer dropped, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. I know this one for me, I'm very just. I'm just level-headed on it. I do want to see it, but I'm not setting some hype on it. I absolutely loved Aquaman, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I'm not going to use my love for the Aquaman movie to build hype on this one. I'm just going to go into this thing, watch it, hopefully laugh, hopefully love it. It looks good from the trailer, but I'm not overhyping this thing for myself at all. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on the trailer?
I thought the trailer was fun. I enjoyed seeing a little bit more about what it was going to be like. You know, the first one was just very goofy. You know, showing Billy Batson and his friend, and this one showed a little bit more of like, you know, him like actually, you know, like there's the scene of him jumping off the roof and yelling Shazam and like getting struck with the lightning, and they showed his powers a little bit more. So it definitely had me a little bit more excited. I again with Shazam is one of those characters I only really read when he's in a team book or something like that. He's not anything that I really care too deeply about, but I think that they're going the right. I think DC with the movies is going the right route with you know, getting away from the Snyderverse of the, you know, I like DC. I like the grit about that kind of stuff, but I think lightening it up a little bit, and you know, having it, you know, be a little bit more enjoyable and have some more comedic aspects to it is the right way to go. And I think Shazam's a perfect way to go because, you know, you got essentially what, a 13, 14-year-old kid in a superhero's body. And yeah, it looks good. I think it's going to be good. I would love to see Black Adam. I know that I read something, and I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember I read something about there's some type of spoiler about a secondary villain in it, and it has to do with the scene when they're in the Wizard Shazam's you know, in the subway or whatever, because of the clothes he was wearing or something like that. I didn't really read too much into it, but yeah, I thought it was good overall. I'm definitely going to go see the movie. Again, I'm not hyping myself up too much either because I just, again, don't care about the character that much, but I think it'll be fun. And I think anything's going to be better than what we've gotten already from them. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Me personally, I don't have a lot to say, but I think the buzzword for DC movies lately, and we're going to talk about that again in a little bit with Aquaman, is that it's just supposed to be fun. And we're just hoping that these movies are fun. I'm all for a dark and gritty Batman. But characters like Aquaman and Shazam and even Superman to an extent, I kind of want those to be a little lighter. And I think that that's what we're getting here. We're getting a movie that is going to be fun. Sure, it's got like, it doesn't look like it's going to be as, you know, cartoon like as Aquaman might have been, or some people might say Aquaman was, but I think it's going to be fun. I think the jokes are probably going to land. And I think we're going to enjoy it. The new trailer, all it did for me was just kind of show you a little bit more of what the old trailer showed. There was a few more scenes of actually inside that variety store, and you get to see, you know, the character acting like a kid who is in the body of a superhero. So that's great. But yeah, no, I'm excited to have fun with this movie. I'm not expecting it to be, you know, the next great, you know, DC movie, but I'm hoping that it's going to set up this whole new vibe that DC has about movies that are just going to be fun and more or less standalone, and I'm okay with that.
Agreed. A lot going on here in the comments is Jay Chala said that he wanted to see Black Adam, but not sure who would play it. So I guess he didn't know. It's supposed to be The Rock. That was supposed to have been casted a while ago, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Right now, he's kind of busy doing the fucking Titan games, Hobbs and Shaw, a million other fucking things, Jungle Cruise. So The Rock's my favorite. He's like my man crush. If it was me, he could play every character. So I think he's going to kill it as Black Adam. As far as when I could see it come up in the end credits, I know that the big rumor, like it's probably going back like 4 months ago maybe, was that he was supposed to come up in Suicide Squad 2, which was kind of like interesting. No idea why he would come up there and not here in Shazam. So we'll have to see what happens. I think everyone would freak out if they ended it with a little shot of him coming up. And especially because it would be nice to get that so like Aquaman, for example, didn't really have like a big. I mean, it had an end credit scene, but it was Black Manta. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, it was Black Manta. So I think it would be really, really cool for DC to set up something future. You know, they definitely need to do that. They need to set up, you know, the future events coming up and the future movies coming up. So if we got a Black Adam thing, that would definitely be awesome. It would be smart on them to continue to build that hype that they're gonna need. For sure.
I know I was talking about with you guys about this before you know, we came on live, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen anymore, but there's always a chance that, you know, they could film this last minute. But I guess an insider came out recently saying that the scene that was supposed to be filmed that Henry Cavill, you know, didn't end up doing was he was supposed to come on as Clark Kent, not Superman, but it was supposed to be a scene with Clark Kent and the kid Billy Batson, and Clark just saying something like, "We have our eye on you, kid," type of thing. And that was supposed to be the cliffhanger, or supposed to be the end credit scene. But they didn't film it. They didn't shoot it because of all that bullshit that was going on with Henry and Warner Brothers. Is there time to film something that's simple? Yeah. He doesn't need to put on the suit. We don't need to get someone else to put on doesn't need to be any special effects or anything like that. But who knows what we're going to get? I hope it's something that's going to say that there is a future for Shazam as well. But I'm okay with it just being a standalone as well, as long as it's good.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, and you look at DC, and you look at all the movies coming out, right? We got Shazam, and we know Wonder Woman. And then we've got a bunch of what ifs and things that are in plans and whatever. You've got a Batman movie that no one knows who Batman is. You've got hopefully one day a Justice League 2, and you don't even know, A, again, Batman, and B, Superman. Is he coming back or not? So it's like there's so much of this what if stuff going on with DC that it makes you wonder, are they just that secretive and are able to do what Marvel can't do, which is, everything with Marvel gets spoiled pretty damn early, partly thanks to Tom Holland. But you got DC that do they not have a fucking plan right now, or is it just really that tight under wraps?
Well, you forgot to mention a Joker movie that's not even connected to this universe. So then, like, I don't know. Sometimes you feel like they're just throwing darts at a fucking board, and whatever sticks, they're like, oh, let's do that. So there's got to be a shit ton of spec scripts for basically all their characters, and I think they'll greenlight a few and then cancel. I mean, we even forgot to mention the Flash movie that's supposed to happen. That they've dropped like 3 or 4 different directors.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. Yep.
So it's I don't know, if you're a DC fan, it's not a good time to be a fan of DC movies. So go watch Titans again,
and Aquaman.
But I'm hoping that there is an overall plan.
I don't see any plan. I don't see how they have any plan. I mean, there's also supposed to be like a Green Lantern Corps movie as well, I feel like I agree with you, Andy. Like, they're just throwing darts, and I don't even think there's a fucking board. I think they're just throwing darts at a blank wall, bro. Like, I mean, the best thing they have going is their animated series or their animated movies, and then they're starting this stuff with the series. But I don't see how keeping things so far under wraps would do them any good. Like, you could spoil everything for any of these movies, and people are still going to show up, or for the Marvel movies at least, people are going to show up. Like, they don't, like, even with Endgame coming out, they flat out said, like, they're like, we're going to show you a bunch of trailers, but it's only going to be from the first 20 minutes of the movie. Like, right then and there, they're obviously, this is the biggest movie they've ever put out, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, you already know that there's Spider-Man and all this other Phase 4 stuff coming out and all these movies that are lined up. So who wins, something's going to happen, but like, everybody's super stoked on. They can't wait for Endgame to come out. I know I can't. So yeah, I don't see how they have any plan whatsoever.
No, I can agree. So let's talk about let's jump to Aquaman real quick. So since we brought that up a few times, so Aquaman has broke the $1 billion mark, and I absolutely love the movie. I know we've talked about this quite a bit on the show here, but I thought it was an incredible movie, and I hope that it builds up some future hype for DC. I hope that it kind of lets DC know how to. It gives them the blueprint of how to put out a good DC movie. But we'll have to see what happens here. So, Andy, I know you had a couple things you wanted to talk about with Aquaman.
Yeah, I am so curious of by Aquaman kind of breaking through that $1 billion mark. What is this going to say to the DC universe? Because as we know, studios are very reactive to when things become a hit. Look at something like Avatar. Avatar became this movie that made all that money. Right after, every movie just wanted to become a 3D movie. To the point where like it was annoying the fuck out of all of us for having to pay those ticket prices because everything was 3D. So I think Aquaman, what hit home for me is that it's just a movie that knows what it is. It feels like you're watching an 80s cartoon. Like you're watching He-Man or you're watching like She-Ra or like, you know, any type of cartoon that we watched in the 80s and 90s that just didn't take itself too seriously and embraced the aspects of it that were just fucking silly and just went with it and played with it and became, you know, something that was just fun and colorful and we enjoyed. And I just hope that DC is learning from that and going forward that more and more of their movies are just going to embrace the fact that at the end of the day, these things can be fun and can be colorful and doesn't need to be so super serious. It was James Wan, right? The director of this one. Yeah. He's done tons of interviews where he, you know, that's what he stressed is when he made this movie, he just had those things in his mind. I want to make something that's fun, something that's, you know, just colorful, something that just embraces what it is. And those things stuck with me. And when I saw it, I'm like, that's exactly what he did. It almost feels like it's the best Power Rangers movie ever made at times. Just like the vibe of it, you know, just embracing what it is. So I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I loved it. I know a lot of people complain about a lot of things. When it comes to the movie, you hear some complaints that I think are not as valid as you know, as they should be. But I want to hear your guys' opinion. Where do you guys think DC is going to go from here? Because of how well this movie did.
Go ahead, Mike.
Where do I think they're going to go from here? I don't know. Throw some more darts at the wall. I'm not really sure.
Will they embrace the, you know,
I think
Aquaman embraced?
Yeah, no, I think that they know, like you said, it's fun, right? They need to go that route of keeping that kind of even tone throughout their movies. You know, you can have the gritty stuff when it makes sense. You can, but you know, it's got to be fun overall. Why do we go to these movies? You know, why do we do any of this? It's because, you know, obviously some of us have deep relationships with some of the characters, but we do it for fun. That's why we do it. You know, I mean, yes, I want to see the Punisher stab people and shoot them in the face and all that kind of stuff, but I don't want to see Superman that I've seen on screen already. You know, like, I don't want a dark and gritty Superman, and I want him to be, you know, the Boy Scout. And I think where they need to go is hopefully where they're going with Shazam. And, you know, like if they do a Green Lantern Corps movie and there's you know, a Hal Jordan and or I know it's supposed to be Jon Stewart or whatever, but, you know, they have that cocky, funny, you know, Hal Jordan, and they could do the same thing with the Flash. And it can still be serious. It can be good. It can be fun. And they just need to find that balance. It's either just like brooding death or I don't know, whatever Justice League was with, you know, Batman rolling around on the ground and stuff like that. Aquaman, I didn't see until late. I saw it finally, and then I liked it. It was good. It was fun. I think like most people thought that it was just going to be there was too many things going on. There was Orm and Black Manta and the creatures of the deep, whatever their name is, I forget. There's just so many things going on, and it ended up being good. I enjoyed it. I thought everything came together well, and they set up for a good sequel, and it was fun. I think that the casting by Jason Momoa was great. He's a great actor in general.
You didn't feel like he played himself?
I think he definitely. I think it was just like watching him on any interview I've ever seen. I think Jason Momoa was the best Namor that they've ever casted ever. But no, but it was good. I don't care. Like, I don't need blonde hair, blue eyes. I don't need it to be exactly what the book is. At the end of the day, it's like you said, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I hope they keep going that route. It's not a book that I'm going to put down in history as one of my favorite comic book movies ever. But did I walk out saying, "What the fuck did I just watch?" No, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was good, and I hope they keep going this direction. Those are my thoughts. Outside of that, I loved the scene down in the trenches with those what are they called again?
Well, they were just trench monsters.
Trench monsters, yeah. That was like, that scene was awesome. It was like something right out of a horror movie. But I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
So my thoughts on it is kind of so Werewolf by Moon Knight here said just stick to the source material. And so here's what Aquaman did is I read the Aquaman by Jeff Johns omnibus after watching the movie, and I read it literally in a day. One day read the whole entire thing. It was that damn good. And the movie follows that fucking book and that storyline by Jeff Johns perfectly. I mean, everything in that movie is pretty much from that book, essentially. You've got the trench. He introduces the trench in the book. They go over the whole thing with them. You've got the Throne of Atlantis storyline and how, Orm is going to, first phase is wipe out the coast and then kind of build up from there and start this war. The Black Mana, even the desert, having to go to the desert and falling out the fucking airplane, that's in the goddamn book. Just everything. And it was, so the movie took that premise that's this new 52 Aquaman run and made a movie about it, but made it fun at the same time. And so basically all they have to do is just continue that. Take these great storylines, whether the rest of us are familiar with them or not, stick to it, but make it fun. And they'll have a hit every single time. I mean, all these characters have great runs, so it shouldn't be that hard for them to do. And I also thought that they kind of learned from previous mistakes. And if you think of Aquaman, like you just said, there is a lot going on in this movie between Black Mana and Orm, and him having his eternal fight of having to balance his two sides. Yet the movie did an excellent job of it. They did a great job transitioning from Black Mana and how he pops up and why he pops up, and then transitioning into Orm, and then you get the two of them fighting, and it was badass. And then you get the two of them in full fucking costume, and it didn't look ridiculous either. And they just did a hell of a job. And so if they stick to this for the rest of the movies, I think they've got it, and it made me excited for future for sure. But we'll have to see.
So basically, what you're saying is just next they need to do Jeff Johns' The Blackest Night, because that's going to be dope, right? And then somewhere down the line, Jeff Johns' JSA run, because that was amazing. So pretty much just take all the late 90s, early 2000s, and beyond that, all the Jeff Johns runs, and make those movies and let him be on them. And because he was part of Aquaman, right?
Yeah, he wrote it.
Yeah, he wrote it, right? Yeah, so
follows his own story.
Yeah. So Jeff Johns, stop writing comic books, take your old stuff, and start writing movies. Perfect. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, really, in reality, right? That we just want good movies, right?
Yeah.
So we want good movies, and you know, who? Okay, if all they do is recycle their books into movies, fine. They've shown that they can't do it on their own, right? So if you can't do it on your own, then just take what's already been done and make it a movie. That's my opinion.
A quick question. You guys mentioned some good books. If I wanted to like read them, where could I go to pick up those trades?
InStockTrades.com is always the go-to place. Now, I will tell you though, the Aquaman Omnibus, I have been talking a lot of shit about this book, and so it's becoming quite hard to find. So if you find one, get one. But yeah, so InStockTrades.com, always, every time you want to read all this stuff.
I did get the email before coming on saying that I'm contractually obligated to mention In Stock Trades once or twice. If I know.
I think, yeah, if you want to be a reoccurring member, you got it. You're already on the point. Okay, so I'm actually kind of embarrassed that we didn't have this written down. But Werewolf by Moon Knight mentioned Mysterio, and did we talk about Spider-Man on the last show?
There hasn't been a show since the trailer came out.
Okay, so then let's do it right now then. We're gonna go off script here. So Spider-Man trailer also dropped. My initial thought is that it looks pretty fucking awesome. I love Mysterio already. He already looks like he is awesome. I will say, if I'm gonna come up with like a little minor gripe, like that little introduction, like the little where he popped down, I don't know what fucking corny ass line he said, but that was kind of like eh. But then after, when he starts, you know, using his shit, that was pretty fucking badass. And I like the little Easter eggs that they put in there. And more importantly, I love the fucking fire that's going on in our collecting community over Hydro Man. And it's just awesome to see all these people just flipping shit over. Did they get the right book or did they get the wrong book? And oh, I just love it. I love seeing, you know, I hope that it's not now, because I would love for Marvel to just like, not that they did it intentionally, but just to totally just fuck with all those people that do that shit.
Yeah, I agree. And so I was talking with one of my buddies, and they brought up a really good point, which I think would be awesome, is like, you know, you have Mysterio, and you know what does Mysterio does best is you know, he creates illusions. And my buddy goes, I think Mysterio is creating these villains to make himself look like a superhero, and there's no other villains in the movie, and that would be great, first of all. And then there's the other thing where like you see that kind of cross, you know, like the Molten Man. Have you guys heard about like the little theory that there's
the elementals? Yeah,
the elementals. So there's a, I forget which one it is, but there's a Spider-Man where essentially Hydro Man and Sandman kind of combined and become Molten Man, and it's like a mud monster. If I'm correct, but I hope that. I hope that this just comes right out of the back end, and I hope it's just totally all Mysterio doing this. And I think the trailer looks dope, and I'm very excited. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man that's existed yet. So I'm stoked about it. What do you guys think? You guys think this is pre or post Infinity War Endgame?
It's post. They've gone and already said that it is.
They did say that. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's speculation. I think you're like I'm willing to bet the house that your friend's right, that they're all just illusions by Mysterio. Even what's his name, Jake Gyllenhaal at I think it was at some con in Brazil, kind of said something. I don't know if Marvel wanted him to say or not. In regards to, he said something like, "Oh, I'm someone who's pretending to work with Shield." So there's an interview when he says something like that, and I think what's going to happen is that Spider-Man's going to figure him out, and that's when they're going to start fighting against each other. I'm excited for this movie, and unlike you guys, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan. I like him, but I don't love him. But Tom, you know, just how he's been playing Spider-Man in the first movie and him in Infinity Wars and Civil War, like I've come to really like this version of Spider-Man, and I'm like really excited for this movie. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun too, and it was crazy to see fishbowl helmets or fishbowl head Mysterio. Didn't think we'd see it on the trailer, but I kind of think Sony knew they had to show it just to make geeks like us happy.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got a little bit of that, just to shut us up.
I think I saw that that they weren't too happy. That a lot of people, I don't know if Marvel in particular, but I know a lot of people weren't happy about seeing Sam Jackson and seeing him in it because, you know, like, and I will agree with that in this sense. So we all, like Mike mentioned earlier, we all know the future lineup, right? The future lineup of all the movies coming out and all that shit. And so we all knew kind of, well, I'm not going to keep saying we all knew, but like, I know for me, for sure, it was like, okay, well, these guys are coming back, you know, Black Panther, Spider-Man, they're all coming back. And I've been saying for ever since Avengers came out that, you know, my theory is that all the people that died are going to come back, and then we're going to get the real deaths of, you know, the big ones, the one, you know, the Iron Mans and the Captain Americas, and we'll see what happens. But you know, we all pretty much freaking knew that those characters were coming back. So you still want to leave something to the imagination of, is so-and-so coming back? Is so-and-so coming back? And then you've got, you know, that one's one that probably could have been saved. And then that way we all would have seen it and been like, oh shit, he actually did come back, and, you know, something like that. But to spoil it that early is pretty crazy. Although Max, like you said, that's not the real Nick Fury. So maybe there's another Mysterio illusion. Who knows? We'll see. But that was, you know, that was my thought.
Yeah, all the theories that are popping up too, like how the big check was signed by Pepper Potts instead of Tony Stark. So is that hinting that he dies in Endgame? There's all these theories popping up just based on the trailer. I'm not going to buy into any of them because I want to go into it as much as I can without like thinking of having that stuff in my head. But you're right. I think Chad was the one that was telling us about the Marvel Studios being upset with Sony.
Disney. He said on the comments that Disney's the one that's pissed.
Disney, yeah, about that. So if that's true, that's interesting. I think the way some people are talking about is that this is going to jeopardize their relationship. I don't think it's that. I don't know if it'll go that far. So it's just interesting when you get little tidbits about what's going on behind the scene. But I'm still excited for it.
Yeah, same here. Mike, anything to add?
No, I'm stoked. I got again in the comments. I like the idea that there would be some type of carry through with the scrolls into that, but I got to imagine that the Secret Invasion thing, it's one of my favorite events. Was Nick Fury a Skrull in that event? I don't recall that. I don't remember. Either way, I think it would be cool to see the Skrulls play more of a role beyond Captain Marvel. I mean, who knows really what's going to happen in there. But yeah, I'm stoked about it, and I can't wait to see what happens.
So I haven't read Secret Invasion yet. That's a must read.
I love Secret Invasion. I thought it was good. Yeah, it kind of blows up a lot of things because it throws back years of reading where like you're just like, oh, like this person was a Skrull for the past, you know, however many years of me reading this. It's just crazy. And it was done really well. It wasn't just like this. It wasn't just like some crazy retcon where everything changes. I mean, it was really good. So I enjoyed it. I love the Skrulls. I love the Secret Invasion. I think it would be awesome to see more of the Skrulls after Endgame. And hopefully, who knows, maybe that's where it comes in.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Matt Collector in here dropping fucking spoilers. Jesus Christ, I just said I haven't read it yet. But I do have it right here. I got the omnibus, which I got off of InStockTrades.com, believe it or not. So I'll definitely add that to one of my next up to reads. I pretty much have that one. I've been meaning to get to it for a long time, but then I started reading some other stuff. So I'm gonna put that on my must-read list for sure. So the other thing we wanted to talk about here, we'll talk about New Gods real quick. A movie that I know pretty much nothing about. Other than a few of the characters. But Andy said that he had some serious like breaking news here.
I don't know about that. But I know recently the director of it announced and kind of basically teased the lineup going into it. And it's, besides the, people characters like Orion and Highfather, she said that the movie, a lot of it is based around Mr. Miracle and his wife, Big Berta, and characters like Granny Goodness. So it's just interesting to see. I don't know what DC's doing, but I kind of feel like they're trying to create a cosmic universe of their own by using a lot of these, almost like a Jack Kirby a movie universe, and I'm really excited for it. If it's anything like what Marvel's doing with Guardians of the Galaxy and their cosmic universe, I think we're going to get some really interesting movies with some really interesting characters. And the first director that they have, I always forget her name. It's Ava DuVernay. She's the director of that movie Selma. Really, really good director. So it's really interesting for them to take a director who's made these serious movies, but now is going to make this colorful and fun world with a lot of Jack Kirby's characters. So I don't know. You guys excited for a New Gods movie? Is this something we want? Is it something that we need?
I'd be excited for a few reasons. So for me, I think I've said this before, but Darkseid is my just #1 fucking beast of a bad guy. So, but I also don't know much about the rest of them. Your Mr. Miracles and all of them, with the exception of reading them in some tie-ins or like that Darkseid War thing that we got a couple years ago. So things like that, like I'm familiar with them, but I've never read any of the old stuff. So I think for me, I'd be really excited to get a movie so that I could understand it and appreciate it a little more. Because I know that, before any of the movie news, the New Gods is a big deal. So things that that's some books that collectors have already been looking out for. Now this will just add hype to it, but so it'd be really cool if for me to get more of a knowledge about them.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely love the Fourth World and all of the Jack Kirby stuff. The New Gods, Mr. Miracle, Darkseid, and I would be stoked if this was done right. And there is in some of the older stuff, they're definitely a little bit more. It's wild as far as like the grand, like the scale of everything. It's super cosmic, super. They're the New Gods. They have their own planets. There's New Genesis, and there's Apocalypse, and there's this whole thing about this war that's been going on. I think it's not like the 1,000-year war or something like that, but the war was going on forever, and the only way they came to an agreement to stop the war was to trade off children, and that's where Mr. Miracle and Orion come from. And Mr. Miracle is very much like definitely has to be the protagonist in this movie. He's kind of the highlight in all the books and all the old New God stuff. And yeah, I agree. People are buying up all those books because, in my opinion, they're great books, and the covers, like those Jack Kirby covers from Mr. Miracle, every single one of them is just awesome. They're amazing.
I just lost a bid on Mr. Miracle 1 while we've been doing this podcast. So
good luck, man. Yeah, I think it would be awesome to see. It just goes back to the thing, like what are they doing here? Like they're gonna put out like a big cosmic movie with New Gods, and then potentially another, super cosmic based movie with Green Lantern. Are they going to tie it all together, or are they just going to throw standalone movies? I mean, I don't know that I'm opposed to that. I don't know that everything needs to be like Marvel. You don't need to have maybe you don't need to have a 10-year plan where everything ties into this one big thing. Maybe there's just a bunch of standalone movies. I mean, that's what comic books are, right? I mean, it's everything's not everything's always sticks to continuity. So, you have standalone books where, there's Batman's doing one thing in Detective Comics, and he's doing another thing in Batman. So who knows? It is what it is. But I'd be stoked to see the New Gods brought to life on screen. That would be great. I hope it gets done well.
Yeah. So in the chat here, since you guys know about Mr. Miracle, Werewolf by Moon Knight said Tom Cruise as Mr. Miracle would work. Yay or nay?
I think Tom Cruise would work as anything pretty much, but yeah, I think that would work. Mr. Miracle is a lot of the times is a pretty cocky character, I think is maybe the right word. And he would work out, I guess. I kind of also at the same time, I like seeing new faces, people that I haven't really seen in anything else, especially when it comes to comic book movies. That's my personal opinion.
I think it would be an interesting choice. I mean, we all know that, or at least I think we all know that Tom Cruise is supposed to play Iron Man. So it's interesting to think of him in any superhero movie. But I don't know enough about Mr. Miracle to know like even how old he is or anything like that. If Tom Cruise is an actor who would be too old for that role or anything like that. But he's good in everything that I've enjoyed lately, like the Mission Impossible. So I can't say no. Okay, not good in everything. That Mummy movie was shit, but Mission Impossible is definitely good.
Mission Impossible, yeah. So let's talk comic books for a little bit here. So Mike was really, really, really excited to talk about the Marvel books that are coming out and how they're redoing some of their titles like Marvel Tales and Marvel Presents, and his favorite, which was Crypt of Shadows. So we're going to give him some screen time here so he can tell us about why you need to be picking those up on Wednesdays.
Yeah, so if most people I'm sure know, but if not, this is Marvel's 80th year, so there's a bunch of things they're doing to celebrate it. And I believe it was starting 2 Wednesdays ago. Every Wednesday there's gonna be 2 old school titles, and we're talking golden age titles that are going to be released. We're going back as far as Timely Comics, and so they're doing stuff like the first week. It was 2 Wednesdays ago. They released Marvel Tales, and that was a reprinting, and that was like a reprinting of ASM 316. That's when the first time Venom comes back into the story. And then they did 361, which was Carnage, and then a Black Cat story. And it was a cool little just bringing those 3 stories together. They also did a Marvel Comics Presents, and it had 3 original stories with Wolverine, Captain America, and Namor. And they're totally, outside of what's going on in any book. They're on their own, just one-shot type thing. And I did read the Marvel Comic Presents, and I thought the Wolverine and the Namor story were pretty awesome. And then this past Wednesday, they came out with Crypt of Shadows, which is written by Al Ewing. And I think last time we were on, we talked about how like Immortal Hulk and Al Ewing is probably writing some of the best horror that's out there. So Crypt of Shadows was really good. It's got multiple artists on it, some really cool stuff going on there. It's just a reimagining of old school pre-code horror stuff, which I'm definitely a huge fan of. And then the other thing that I was excited to see come out is a book called War is Hell, and that's being written, and some of the art is done by Howard Chaykin. So anyone who's a Chaykin fan, I certainly am, especially of like American Flag and stuff like that. He was. It's great to see Howard Chaykin doing something kind of back to the the norm of comic books and not just his wildly outlandish stuff, which is still great. So I'm just stoked to see some of these titles coming back out, and they're not just reprints. They're not just like the True Believers reprints. There's like actual new content, new stories with like amazing people like Al Ewing and Howard Chaykin, and tons of amazing artists on this stuff. So I just want to say, keep an eye out for this stuff. I would probably recommend that if you're going, if you have your pull list at your shop, this is probably not stuff you're going to just see on the wall. Most shop owners probably aren't ordering too much of this stuff because not many people even know it's coming out. So if you want to check any of it out, check out the solicits or check out the previews and pick them out. But in my opinion, any old horror or war book that's coming back out, especially Golden Age with a new spin on it and new writers, is definitely worth checking out. So yeah, I just wanted to drop that real quick.
Awesome.
So also we could segue now into gimmicks. Some people would probably say that some of this stuff that Marvel's doing is gimmick. So Andy came up with the idea of he wanted to know our comic cover gimmicks. So I'm going to let him take over since it was his idea, and he's going to discuss what he means by gimmick number one and some of his favorites and least favorite gimmicks.
All right, so I came up with this idea, just something fun to talk about on the show, was mainly because a couple of guys in our club, I know Chad just picked up a Batgirl 40 Purple Rain poster variant cover for Joe, two members from our chapter hooking each other up. That's awesome. And I know Jay Chala and Ink Jedi collect those hip hop covers from Marvel. And it just got me thinking, like, what are some gimmicks out there that we've seen in the past that either we've liked or disliked? And just to name a few, I remember in the 90s, when I was a kid, one of the biggest things for me was those Superman covers, the Reign of Superman covers, where it was just the Superman symbol. And when you would open up, you'd actually see which character it was, Steel, Superboy, etc. So I'm wondering for you guys, which gimmicks either today or, from your childhood or in the last, decade or so really stand out for you as some of the best and some of the shittiest gimmicks we've ever seen in Marvel or Marvel DC covers?
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I love the hip hop variants, first of all. And I also love the I don't know what they're called, but they're like the toy variants, right? Where it looks like it's an old school package of a toy.
Oh yeah, action figure.
Yeah, the action figure variants, right? Yeah. So I like that kind of stuff. I think like we all know variants have been, it's out of control. There's everything out there. I love Virgin variants. I love Chrome Virgin variants. I love all that stuff. I think probably one of the things that I don't care for the most, or something that really I've never really cared for, it never really grabbed my eye, was like foil or any type of foil variants. Never really, I just didn't care too much for that. There's no specific reason, but I just remember some of my friends that, and people that, love foil variants and collect them all and all that kind of stuff. I absolutely hate hologram covers. That definitely, like, I don't know, like all those, and I love Spider-Man, but all those Spider-Mans, like the 365 with Spider-Man 2099 and all that stuff. I don't know. I just think they're weird looking. After we brought this up, though, I did think about some of the stuff that I did like, and I knew one of the ones that I did have, and I got a few copies of this, was I love the glow-in-the-dark variants. So I grabbed one of my favorites, which is the Venom one. Obviously, it's not going to work here, but it's pretty cool. When all the lights are out, it's all the white just glows in the dark, and I always like those. There's a few that DC did, and there's a few other ones that are out there. So
that new Wolverine one too.
Oh, is that like new? Is it
the issue 1? I think of like Return of Wolverine. There's the one that glows in the dark as well.
Is it his claws that glow in the dark? Because
a little bit of him and his claws, yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. So yeah, I like everybody else, love variant covers and love all the different stuff that's coming out and all the cool ideas. I think probably overall one of my favorite things in recent times is the fact that DC is doing these B covers that are basically virgin covers that are open order. They're not 1 in 20 ratio covers or 1 in 100 that you got to pay. Any comic book store can pick these up. You can get all the Batgirl Bs or all the Superman Bs or whatever you want. They're $3.99 a piece. And they're awesome. They look great. So yeah, that's my little rant real quick about it. But
so
James.
I got quite a few here. So I think for me, the only thing I would say I don't like is when DC or Marvel does an entire run of it, and the reason why is just because then I feel like I have to get them all, and so that's my only gripe with it. But like I know for me, I really, and I hated that I did it, but when Marvel came out with like the redos of all the old covers, and then they were like hologram basically, and it was so like one of them would be some other story that they're doing right now, but then when you turned it, then it was the Fantastic Four #1 cover.
Oh, and the lenticulars. Yeah.
Yes, the lenticulars. There you go.
Yeah,
so
right.
I liked most of those. I didn't get all of them. I had to tell myself no, because it was just, that was a time where it was just way too, every fucking book had one, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But I did get the ones that I really, really liked. So I enjoyed those. DC did that for quite a bit. They did twice, if I'm not mistaken. You have the villain run, which is where for like the whole month, every villain came out with one of those, and I have a few of those. And then they also did that, the Future's End, where it was like 5 years later.
Yeah.
And that's another one that I literally have every single one, and I hate myself for it. But I have all of them. And so those are the things that I don't like. But so some of my favorites, like Annie mentioned, was the Reign of Superman. So here was another one that kind of did that same thing as the Wolverine, where once you open it, then the whole yellow part comes up, and that's the quote-unquote cover. I love glow in the dark. So I was actually telling Andy, I think what I want to do now is actually get them like framed and put them up on the wall and see if they would actually glow like when I turn the light off. But so I have the Venom one that Mike showed. Another one that I really, really like is when Superman came out with Superman Blue. This one, he completely lights up, and that one's pretty badass. Green Lantern did a couple. I believe I pulled the right ones. I could be wrong, but I haven't looked at them in quite a bit. But Green Lantern did some. And then you also have this one. I'm going to pull two of my favorites here. So Silver Surfer, which also got signed by Ron Lim. That one was just a badass. Is this what, foil? Is this what they would consider the foil ones?
It's also got that rising cover. It's like a rising cover,
yeah. I believe they call it. And then this one for sure is, I mean, I don't know that it gets better than this, but that's definitely one of the best ones for me. So I do appreciate the gimmicks. I know that the intention is definitely just to sell. So I think it's cool as long as they don't overdo it. And I think that's when it kind of becomes kind of lame, is when you know that they're just trying to make a quick hype or a quick buck by just releasing a whole bunch of them that do the same bullshit.
Me personally, I just want to name a few that I hated. I remember when I was a kid, had to get all those Chromium, like X-Men Prime, X-Men Alpha, X-Men Omega, shiny covered books that they came out with. But when I think about it, it's kind of dumb. And probably the worst gimmick I ever saw was, you guys remember Eclipso #1? From DC, where it was him holding this purple diamond, and the diamond was actually something like, a little like plastic diamond cover. I remember that, that was a big comic that the kids were trading with each other when we were kids.
Just because of the gem?
Just because of the gem, right? Just that gimmick. But going back to the lenticular comic, I don't know if anyone can tell me anything about this. This is the Superman Unchained #1 3D cover. I can't find any information online, so if anyone can hit me up and let me know what was the print run on that, that'd be great. Yeah, just I don't mind gimmicks. I think sometimes they're done really well. I really like you guys said, I love the hip hop ones. I don't have any of myself, but just seeing like some of the posts by some of the the people in the club makes me want to go out there and get some of them. And I just picked up a Batman and Robin Harry Potter poster variant cover, and I saw the other ones that exist in DC, and it's pretty cool with the Teen Titans like Lost Boys and that Batgirl Purple Rain, and a lot of them are. I'm a big movie buff, so a lot of them really stick out to me. So might try and hunt some of those down. No, all those comics you guys brought up, the ones that you didn't like and the ones that you liked, I feel the same way. And it's interesting to see what'll be the next big thing. I know I've been noticing a lot lately. I just picked one up, the Black Hammer #1 director's cut. And that's like another gimmick I've noticed that's popped up in the last couple of years, is they'll re-release an issue 1 of a specific comic, call it director's cut, and there'll be an addition to it. So I think those are interesting if what they add to the story, fleshes the story out a little bit more. Yeah, we'll see what pops out in the next couple of years.
I think so. Some of the ones that you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, I believe what DC did is in the New 52, when that was going, is every year during October, I believe, and that's where I think I could be wrong. I believe it was during October. They did, the whole month was like themed basically. So that's when you got the whole hologram of the villains. And then another year they did all the movie ones, which I do have a few of those. I think I do have that Batman and Robin Harry Potter one.
Yeah.
So they do, where they made a bunch of the movie ones. They also did, Trevor just said the selfie variants. I remember that.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn. That was a lame one. I thought that was kind of lame.
There was Harley Quinn one too.
Yeah. They did a Neil Adams, where they just did a bunch of Neil Adams cover swipes.
Mad TV or Mad Magazine.
And yeah, so I remember the movie ones, and I remember then they did the Future Then was going on for the whole month. And the 1 year in October was Monsters. So like every book got a monster edition. I know I have a few of those. I think it was like Batman. And this was like during issues probably like 30 to 40, somewhere, or like in the 30s, I believe. And they were all monster themed for the whole month of October. So that was pretty cool. But I haven't seen anybody like really. I think Lenticular might be like the last time that one of them did a full-on like gimmick, like for a bunch of different titles. I mean, I can't think of anything more recent.
Yeah, I think the lenticulars. I mean, if you get away from like the basic things of like the chrome and all that kind of stuff that's going on. The other thing I just thought about too that I do like is the connecting variants.
Oh yeah.
When like I forget which one it was, but I know they had it for like leading up to Spider-Man 800. They had a bunch of them. I forget who the artist was. Marvel's doing those. I don't really think anyone else is, but that's an ongoing thing that they do, is pretty much
connecting.
All their arcs have like the connecting variants, which is it scoops you, man. Once you get one, you're like, oh, who's like I want that connecting variant. I want to get all 5 of them. I want to put them together up on my wall. But yeah.
Yeah, I think a thing that they probably could utilize maybe even more, because I can only think of like two off the top of my head that do it, but turning the book landscape and doing it that way just to get maybe more of a background view. So like the only ones that I could think of offhand is there was that X-Force Spider-Man, like number 15 or 16 or whatever, Todd McFarlane's run. That one's turned sideways. And then the Punisher series a couple years ago, there's one where like he's laying under the van with the sniper pointed, and that one's tilted sideways, so it's the whole van with him crouched underneath. But I think that's something that they could do more of, because if you think about, you know, turning it landscape, and now you just have much more background space to use. So you could even do like a whole, you know, universe, a whole Marvel universe, the whole DC, you know, and make it bigger like that and utilize more space.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool to see. But yeah, no, I mean, so if you guys have in the comments here, if you guys have some of your favorite gimmicks, definitely let us know. Shit, post them on IG, tag us. I want to see them. I want to see some of. I mean, we just mentioned a bunch, but you know we missed something. You know, there's got to be something out there that we missed. So tag us in it. Let us know what your favorites are.
We haven't even brought up like homage covers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. So
well, you know, we wanted to stay away from the whole Matina right now, but that because we're running out of time here to get on that topic. But so I wanted to end this thing with let's talk real quick about some pickups that we've gotten recently. That's always a nice way to end the show. So Andy, have you picked up anything recently? Anything you want to show off?
It's not in front of me, so I'm not gonna go get it. But yesterday I just stopped by my comic shop, and they had put up some new wall books and picked up the first and second appearance of Falcon, Captain America 117 and 118, I believe, off the top of my head. So it was a couple of nice little keys to pick up for not that much. So if you guys are ever in London, Ontario, Canada, Heroes Comics, their comic books are super cheap. So let me know, hit me up, I'll show you around. But besides that, got what I've been really into is Bitterroot, and I think that if you guys can ever pick up any of those books, it's a great read. So I definitely highly recommend Bitterroot. And anyone that talks to me knows I'm a big fan about that and always pushing it on people. But no, I'm interested in what you guys are picking up.
So I am pretty much trying to cut back, trying to save some money, you know, make some big boy adult purchases. So I'm going to cut back, but I did have to get this one. So I'm going to show this off. I literally just got it today. I haven't even posted it on IG yet. So this is Rob Broussard on Instagram. We've shouted him out quite a few times. I've gotten some stuff by him. So now he's doing his own little custom splash pages. And I'm a Spawn fan. If you've been on my page, you've seen some of my stuff. So I had to get it, and I can't wait to frame this shit up and put this up there. And this is probably going to be like my last purchase for quite a little while here. So that's my latest one. But Mike, I'm saving you for last because I know you don't have it in hands yet, but
I don't.
I mean, you could show it off now, and then we'll show it off again when you get it. So
yeah, absolutely. So right before this podcast, I was lucky enough. I'm gonna share something with everybody. I was partaking in a raffle, and I was lucky enough to win this little beauty, if everyone can see that.
Nice.
So it's an X-Men 3 8.0. So first appearance of the Blob. I am a huge X-Men guy as well, so I'm super stoked on this win. And I'm sure it's going to get shipped out to me very soon. So once I get it in my hands, I'll definitely post a picture of it and probably bring it here for everyone to see as well. And then so I got that, and I also have coming to me, which was my first my first book that I checked off my list for this year. It's a grail I've always been going after, and I was lucky enough to work out a deal. I got a House of Secrets 92, also in an 8.0. So that's the first appearance of Swamp Thing. That's coming to me. So that was my big book. And then I was lucky enough to win this X-Men number 3. So I'm in a good mood. I'm very happy.
Congratulations, brother.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Fiendcast seen it first. You guys, I'm telling you, we drop gems on here from time to time, and we should do that more often. You guys, our viewers, you guys get to see this shit before everybody else does. So there you go. I mean, that's a way to end the show. And but Mike also, you know, I wanted to kind of give this advice out to everybody that's watching. You know, Mike said that when he won that book, his wife had asked him, you know, how much did he spend on it? And it got me thinking that, you know, we all deal with that, right? You get this book, and that's the first question. Well, how much did you spend? Just always tell them not as much as it's worth.
Exactly.
So that is the answer right there. And
that's exactly what I said.
Walk away. You just walk away. So without further ado, I mean, there's no better way to end the show than by showing off grails like that. So that will do it for us for this week. Join us next week. Well, I don't know. We got Super Bowl next week. We'll figure it out. I think some people don't watch football, so I might not be here next week, but we'll see. So, like I said, shout us out with your gimmicks. Shout us out with your new grails if you've been picking up some stuff. We'd love to see that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and the comments and everything. And thanks to you, too, for coming on here with me tonight. So appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, just want to tell everyone, please take part in my 30-book challenge on Instagram this week. So look at my account. It tells you what to do, and take part in the challenge by next Sunday.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Bye.